So this is our 4th year with El Caribe, and this season has been kind of crazy. We did not do a whole lot of filming. This is 4th of July, but we have been actively planning our wedding this summer in Key West and a reception back in Ohio for the entire family. And so I'm just sharing a little bit of footage from 4th of July, a little bit of sailing, and then in the fall we had kind of a big project, and I got back into filming more of that, as well as getting married this year. We adopted another dog, Samson. He's a puppy, he's a boy, and he looks a lot like Daisy, ironically. So thanks for tuning in. Daisy's here, and our new guy, Samson. Sammy, say hi. Samson! He doesn't care.
What?
He doesn't care. Long list of some broken items and things that needed fixed on the boat, but the big one was we don't day sail El Caribe, and we stay on it for up to a week at this point, and we sit lower in the water because of our weight, a bit larger battery bank, more beer, more food, more gear, a second dog, all these things. So it was hitting the boot stripe almost all the time. So last season we had noticed some blisters that were starting to form on the boot stripe. So we decided to raise the water line. That's how the season went. We ended early, but we had a really awesome trip to New England, and we got to meet Brian and Brady from Delos at the Annapolis Boat Show, and it was epic. And then we're back home. Well, Meredith's in Switzerland, I'm back home. I'll show you what we've done. So it's all sanded and cleaned up and repaired the blisters, and then applied the barrier coat. The stern end was a big one for sure. The stern end was kind of low anyways, and so raising that up probably about an inch should make a huge difference. So you can see just a little closer, like it's just a thin line, but sanded, clean, fixed the blisters, then I started applying the barrier coat. We also I use a single sail stand, and what I use that for is I lift the stern end of the boat, which helps to get it off the bunks and the pads for a temporary amount of time, so I can actually bottom paint underneath. Which on a trailer tends to be pretty tricky, and I'm not sure what other people do or if they just skip it. But it works pretty well. It gets it up just enough for me to be able to roll the bottom paint underneath there, and then I just lower it. Depending on your area, renting a sail stand wasn't an option for me, so I had to purchase one, which they are kind of expensive. But it works really well though. So it's been a few days and I finished the job. I got 4 coats of barrier coat on, 2 coats of VC17, and I touched up the stripes on the boat as well. So it's all finished. First time I've ever done something like this, so it seems like it went pretty well, but only time will tell when it soaks in the water for 6 months or so next season. I've never seen this before, but they chopped and cut up a boat today and scrapped it in this dumpster, which is kind of a shame because I'm pretty sure if somebody wanted to go through it, there's probably some pretty useful parts and rigging in there, but yeah, they're about to get hauled away tomorrow, I guess, and then scrap the keel, I don't know, but here I'll show you what's going on. So here's the keel, which I don't know, I find to be kind of cool just because you can see like the keel bolts and like how it was all laid into the fiberglass and everything. It's definitely an older boat. I really don't remember what was sitting here, but there are some, unfortunately, some pretty sad boats here. And then, yeah, in the dumpster here, there's a bunch of cut up fiberglass, propane. I'm not sure about all the rotten wood, but I imagine there's some useful stuff in here. But I'm not getting in there to fish around. But it is a shame though, especially like the stern rail and the pulpit, and yeah, I mean some of that like doesn't really wear out. I mean you can see like there's a little bit of electrical panel. I'm really losing the light here. There we go. We found a couple soft spots into the deck, and upon drilling into the deck we discovered that it wasn't wet, so that was good. So there was no, the core's not rotten. It was delaminated, and the top sides of most boats are a sandwich construction of fiberglass and wood and another layer of fiberglass, and that's all epoxied together and made into a sandwich which stiffens the boat. And over time the stress of the rig can break that bond and the layers become separated, and if the gel coat is cracked or other things like that and water is able to get in there, it can rot away the wood, and so you end up with a soft core. The core is rotten. That repair is pretty complicated. I guess paying attention, we caught it early, and so the core was dry, so we were able to just fill it with epoxy, and then we went the route of tinting Gelcoat paste, and that didn't go well at all. I mean, it was really difficult to try to eyeball what the color is, and then once it cured and set, it was a darker shade, so it doesn't look good. And this has been wet sanded a couple times and is now prepped to paint. So we were able to get the paint from Catalina, the gel coat, and so the color will match. If we could do over, I would certainly have just gone that route, but we're using Don Casey's Sailboat Maintenance Manual, and the book is great, and it states using gel coat paste and tinting it, which I guess it just depends on the boat. Because we can get paint from Catalina, yeah, if I could do over again, I would have just bought paint and done the epoxy, and then I would have just painted the top side. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to repaint the top side so it'll match. It'll look a lot better. So I thought the tinting part of it was really difficult, and it really, I mean, that, and we just didn't do a good job at all. I mean, it just sticks out like a sore thumb, so it really doesn't look good. It's structurally correct now, but anyways. And also in investigating, we discovered with Catalina, the way they're built, is these tow rails and the overhang that the top side fits onto the hull, the shrouds, like the base, the stanchion bases, the chain plates, and the bottom of the mast step, all of those fittings and hardware, that's all solid fiberglass. So there's no wood around there, and that's my biggest concern was if it was wet, if some of the hardware in that area of the core was getting wet and rotten, then we would have some really major problems structurally with the boat and the rigging. So luckily we caught it early, but it was nice to discover that Catalina, I mean, it's a production boat. I mean, they make a lot of boats, which you just never know how, unless you do some real investigating. I mean, their hulls are solid fiberglass, but just so the walkway and the forepeak and those areas are cored with wood, and then, yeah, any rigging or structural points are all solid fiberglass. So It made me really happy to discover that. And so if you're looking for an older Catalina, 22, 25, 27, on the pocket cruiser range, that's a good thing to know, that hardware can't rot out of the deck or anything. It is something good to look for, like soft spots or delamination, and if there's any like heavy gel coat cracking, that's a pretty good indicator that water can get through there, and those areas could potentially cause problems. So I'll show you a better look at what this looks like on the deck, and then hopefully we don't have any more hard drive situations, and we'll show you painting it and then the when it's finished. But it's been we're shopping for older boats and larger cruising boats, so this is a good boat to learn how to do a process like this. It's a pretty common problem. I mean, with the sandwich construction, and then as boats get to be 30, 40 years old, it's just not uncommon. Eventually those bonds break down, and it's not the end of the world. They just need to be repaired.
So here you can see one of the spots. What you do is you drill about 1 inch apart into the deck, and then you put epoxy in and then weight it down, and then this is Gelcoat paste on top, tinted, and as you can see, like, it doesn't blend in. You're supposed to buff it out with compound and everything, but it's a lack of experience, and it was just really difficult. So here we have the forward part of the boat on the bow taped off, and we're ready to gel coat. And it's a lot to explain. There's not a lot of good information on using gel coat, which is not actually paint. It's a two-part. It goes on about the equivalent of 20 coats of paint, and it needs catalyst in order to get it to harden up, and it can't cure in air, and it needs to have wax added, and it just got really complicated. And so the gel coat we got from Catalina, they mix in big batches. We don't think that it had enough wax, and through like Google search and some other like blogs, it came up quite a bit that you have to watch out for big batch mixed gel coat, and if it doesn't have enough wax, it doesn't cure properly, and you end up with a tacky deck. And that is what happened to us. It was really difficult. I mean, when it's not cured, it will come off with acetone, but you have to clean up all of that, and that is not easy. So at that point, we switched routes and contacted Jamestown distributors, and went with their topside paint. And so we used Total Tread, and it actually redid all the non-skid, which would have needed done in addition because of the molded in non-skid. The gel coat going on that thick, which it has to, ruins the non-skid. So in addition to adding gel coat on top, if you were to go that route, you also have to add silica or sand or something in the gel coat in order to not ruin the non-skid. So this is all our lack of experience and knowledge of something this technical. Jamestown distributor, they were super helpful. Catalina parts were not helpful at all. And so in the end, we ended up doing primer and 3 coats of Total Tread, and the deck looks awesome. The non-skid is amazing. It's so like tacky, but yeah, you can walk on it barefoot. You feel really safe. And so it ended up taking almost an entire season to get the project finished, but in the end, we did learn a lot, and the boat looks great.